Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the January 4th, 2023 meeting of the Daytona Beach City Commission. We're happy to have you with us tonight. Madam Clerk, will you please give us a roll call?
Commissioner Henry. Present. Commissioner Reed.
Here.
Commissioner Harris.
Here.
Commissioner Strickland.
Here.
Commissioner May.
Here.
Commissioner Cantu.
Here.
Mayor Dale Henry.
Here. Now have the invocation led by Commissioner Strickland, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Henry.
Heavenly Father, as we're gathered here tonight to do business for the residents of the city of Daytona Beach, please watch over and guide us that we do the right thing for our residents and for our city as a whole. We ask, too, that you would continue to watch over the people in the Ukraine as they're still living under deplorable conditions. We have people here locally that are still devastated by the last two storms with the flooding and those things. Please help them to get their lives back together. Watch over and guide and keep all of us as we go forward tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Always forget to take a picture of this.
Take a picture of that Chris with his phone.
I forget. I've been meaning to do it.
We're going to move on to item number 4, which is approval of the minutes of the November 11th, 2022, declaring the results of the general election meeting and the November 23rd, 2022 swearing-in ceremony.
So moved.
So moved.
We take a motion from Commissioner Reed and a second from Commissioner Parrish. Do we have questions or comments? You did? Who was it?
Okay.
Oh, you made the motion.
You can let her make the motion since she was sworn in. I
Okay.
think that's why she gave me that look. You let me do it, Commissioner Reed.
Okay. Well, we'll take a motion from Commissioner Parrish and we'll take a second from Commissioner Reed. That is sort of a standard, and you taught me that. All right. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. All right, we'll move on to our agenda review. If there are any changes, our city manager will address them.
Yes, Honorable Mayor, Commissioners, we do have some changes. Add item 8K, Parks and Recreation Facility Use Agreement for the Crab and Seafood Festival to the consent agenda. Add item 8L, City Manager's Office Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund distribution to the consent agenda. Add to item 8L, $5,000 from Mayor Henry to Volusia Volunteers in Medicine. Move item 8B, Daytona Beach Racing and Recreational Facilities District Grant Application, Jackie Robinson Ballpark, to administrative items for discussion. And we're pulling item 8J, donation of city-owned brownfield site to Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University for expansion of ERAU Research Park to come back on 1/18/23 due to concerns with the Embry-Riddle people not being able to be in attendance tonight.
Motion to approve the agenda with the said changes.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Reed and a second from Commissioner May.
I have some added items, are they on here?
Yeah, they are.
Huh?
Yeah. That's all.
It may be under the regular thing.
Do we have any questions or comments? All right, we have a motion. Had a motion and a second?
Yes.
All right, all those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, we're now going to move on to item number 6, which is our presentations. Item 6A is the Travis Rowland head football coach for Mainland High School.
He may not be here in time, so we'll move on. If he's not able to come, we'll do it at another meeting.
Okay. Then we're going to move on to item number 6B, which is the proclamation certificate of appreciation for Pastor Bill and Janet Guthrie. Are they here in the audience?
Yeah.
Come on up.
To do anything for 44 years is quite an accomplishment in life. I would say that neither of you look as though you have done anything for 44 years. Look fantastic. But to serve in ministry as the child, son, and grandson and nephew of people in the clerical community is quite an achievement and quite a act of importance in any community. And as both a person of faith and as the mayor of our community, I would like to say that we're very grateful for the fact that you all have chosen to do your life's work and God's work in this community. I often say that we welcome over 10 million people to Daytona Beach. And I say this very often because I have a lot of different people who pray for me and who try to cover my work as mayor. And when you welcome 10 million people to a city, that means that you're going to have all sorts of personalities and types to come to your city. And with that, all sorts of lifestyles and choices, some good and some not so good. And so I have always said that because we are a strong community of faith, we are able to handle that as a community and to deal with it because we are a centered community. And so I say on behalf of the city of Daytona Beach that this is a certificate of appreciation presented to Pastor Bill and Janet Guthrie in recognition of your well-deserved retirement after 44 years of outstanding contributions and dedicated service to the Church of God and the community. We appreciate you. We wish God's richest blessings on the rest of your journey, and we want you to know that Daytona Beach is a better place because you have been a part of our community.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Okay, we're going to move on to item number 7, citizen comments. During this time, citizens have the opportunity to address the city commission on any item on the consent agenda. My first speaker is Frederick Brown, and on deck is John Nicholson.
Sorry about the delay. I was kind of expecting the Maitland presentation there. Looking forward to it. Name's Frederick Brown, 1508 Crescent Ridge, Daytona Beach. There's a couple of things on the consent agenda that I wanted to talk to you about, and they have deep impact, and I've written a letter, I know, to my commissioner. Perhaps, I don't know if you've shared that with them, but I want to go in depth a little bit on some of my concerns of what's happened, especially with item 8I, and then also related to J, and of course, as I've talked before about the flooding pump issues. One of the problems I see here is, and obviously this is to approve an additional $53,000 repair for an air blower. And for those of you who have not worked in the wastewater field, which I have, and I understand the importance of it, but I also understand there's 3 types of maintenance. And this is something I really, and I hope to get a chance to talk to our utilities director, Ms. Ponitz. I know she's a very talented and knowledgeable individual, and I've had a chance to be with her at the sample plant out there in the west side. But the three types of maintenance that I'd like to talk about is there's reactive maintenance, there's predictive maintenance, and there is or preventative maintenance, and then there's predictive maintenance. And the most expensive of those is reactive maintenance. Reactive maintenance is when your pump or your blower blows up and you got to repair it all of a sudden. Now you got to get a quote right away. And I will tell you this, I am very familiar with the water and wastewater field. It's a very small niche. They know it. They know they can charge whatever they feel like. And the competitive bids aren't so competitive. They also know you're under the gun because we can't stop flushing our toilets and taking showers. So they take advantage of that. When you have reactive maintenance, you're at the worst of the expenses. And this is the case we've had here. Now, we do need this blower for all the reasons that Ms. Ponus stated in the request. But my concern is if we had done better predictive maintenance, which is the lowest cost, that's where you can actually predict failure. I spent a good portion of my career doing that for major theme park over in the Orlando area, and I can tell you it works. It saves money, it saves downtime, it saves putting you from being under the gun on these types of quotes. So even though we are under the gun, we are going to have to approve that, and I'm sure it'll get approved. It's just sorry it had to get to this far. And the predictive maintenance possibly could have saved us the money. We also have a pump lift station upgrade. I haven't had a chance to review all the details. As a citizen, I don't get all those details. However, that's another opportunity that if we don't implement this type of procedures, we're going to lose out. I'll talk to you more about it in my 3 minutes at the end.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is John Nicholson, and on deck is Ann Ruby.
John Nicholson, 413 North Grandview Avenue. Two items, B and C. One, the ballpark. Have we approved the $30 million? Have we
Which one she wants?
already determined what's going to go in there? From what I understand, we have not done that yet. So what is this Daytona Beach Club? Is it going in? It's part of that, I presume. So I don't mind asking for the grant from Racing and Rec. I don't mind getting ECHO or any kind of funding we can get from anywhere. We are deserving of all that funds since we give most of the funds anyway. So, but I would ask that we have the ability to discuss what's going in to City Island. I'm almost positive that the courthouse will leave. I'm hoping it leaves sooner rather than later. And are we going to be able to use some of that land for what they want to do on City Island? Okay, I would prefer to have a world-class hotel and a little marina and take the funds to maintain the island and take that out of the general fund. But I'd like to know what's happening with that and where the money's coming from. And the second one is the small business resources with the chamber. Chamber puts on Bike Week. They give us what I consider the slush fund that you all get to spend. And you give the money to your churches, you give money to your schools and your friends and whatnot. That money should go back to the city. And I'm asking you to consider putting the money towards this small business association. Thank you.
And that's actually my last speaker for the consent agenda.
All right. Do we
just
have
a
any comments on the consent agenda from the commission?
I had one. We're approving the seafood festival for the third time. I'd like to know what can we do so that it would be like a 3-year or something like that, so we don't have to keep bringing it back to the commission. What steps do they need to take?
That's one of the things I think that would be beneficial moving forward for us to do a long-term agreement like we've done in other places, since we are funding it in the budget.
So do we need to move on that, or is that something you would just, what do we do?
We'll bring it back to you after this year's festival to bring something for a long-term commitment.
All right, thank you.
And just for the record, the Jackie Robinson item was moved off of the consent, so there could be discussion and a brief presentation from Mr. Driscoll to make sure if that's something you want to move forward with.
All right.
I think she has it.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to confirm, so 8B nothing was approved yet for that project. Okay.
B is that's it, yeah, that's moved. Okay. Okay, I did want to mention two items that are on the agenda. One is, that national hookup, donation using, ARPA funds is, for the, a reading program, to support a reading program in, the Dickerson Center with the Boys and Girls Club. And I think it's a very valuable opportunity for us to get books in the hands of those young people who are in that program and to push reading and literacy in our community, which, as you know, has always been one of my primary objectives. And the second is, I noticed on the agenda that Commissioner Henry had a donation to Volusia Volunteers in Medicine. And I had agreed last year to help them to cover their expenses for their rental space. Because for a number of years, Volusia Volunteers in Medicine was actually housed by, excuse me, sorry about that, Warren Traeger. You know we got a commission meeting. He knows that. Probably giving me some advice. Okay. But I say that to say that Bethune-Cookman was their host for a number of years. And this is a very important program in our community that actually came out of a program almost 15 years ago where we did our community visioning project. And many of us in the community were a part of that visioning project that said, and it's really time, and this is why I'm bringing this up. We did a community visioning project where we all came together as a community, and we all divided off into different groups. You had maybe arts and entertainment. I ended up being the chairperson of what was known as the infrastructure committee. Ruth was on that committee, I believe, or Warren. Kelly White was on that committee, and a number of other people. And then there were maybe 10 other committees throughout the city where we all got together. We went over a lot of different things, and we created a vision for the city of Daytona Beach. They said, where do we want to go? What do we want to do? What do we want to become? And the one thing that has lasted out of that visioning project that came to life. Now, we said we valued certain things. We valued infrastructure, which is one of the reasons that I have pushed for the road and resurfacing project. But the one thing that has come from the community and that has been sustained over all of these years was Volusia Volunteers in Medicine, because we said that healthcare was important in the community. And we said that people who work and get healthcare should have an opportunity to have health care even if they can't afford to pay for insurance. And that's what Volusia Volunteers in Medicine does. It gives people who work but can't afford insurance access to doctors, blood work. It has literally saved people's lives. So I'm saying that I was happy to see that. And when I saw that, I immediately got on the phone, called Ms. Strapp to see what the amount was that I needed to donate. Turned out to be, this year, their rent is about $4,500. Staff was able to get it on to the agenda. And I'm saying all of this to say that I believe that it's time for us to sit down, and maybe we can sit down and talk about how we need to go back and have another visioning session throughout the community so that we can hear, at the end of the day, none of us are a part of the committee. It's the residents. I was not an elected official. I was a resident. And the residents do the visioning. And you hire an outside consultant to come in and to help you with that process. So I would like for us as a commission to consider that as we get ready to do our strategic planning, and that we would eventually come back and charge staff with helping, with going out and executing that. Now, we will, be able to attend and listen if you would like, but we don't want to, this is something that really is only healthy when the residents tell you what's important to them. And as one who has been elected 5 times in Daytona Beach, I will say this. The most important thing that I have ever done as an elected official is knock on someone's door and listen to what they had to say about our community and hear them, or go to a small round table and listen to people, because the people who live in Daytona Beach know best. So glad that's on the agenda. Just wanted to get all of that out. I will not forget about visioning. We'll talk with you, and then we'll come back later. Any other
I want to add to what you were saying about getting books into the hands of children, because each zone presents its own problems. They have their own problems. They have their own issues that are important to the people specifically in that zone. I know in 32114 and 32117, literacy is an issue. Our children are 2 years behind. COVID put us probably an additional year behind, but we're saying roughly 2 years behind. And so we need to make sure that those children have access to books. I talked to the principals in those schools. I talked to the principals in those zones, and they said that books was an issue. And so any nonprofit who is a good nonprofit, like National Hookup of Black Women, who can get books into those communities, not just once, because it has to be all year. So I know I'm partnering with several nonprofits to make sure that there are books flooded through Zone 5. And even with the STEM program, it's going to be a STEM program that's for the entire Daytona Beach. I want to extend that to everyone in the city. But part of, my motto, strong schools, strong communities. And so I think it is incumbent upon all of us, if you are in representing one of those areas, to make sure that you're partnering with people to make sure that you're getting access to, those children have access to books. We're getting books in the hands of those children, because it only makes us stronger as a community. So don't make the word black the boogeyman, because it's not. It's not the boogeyman. It's really, those are the people that are working in that community and in that area to make that community better and to make that area better. And we want to make sure that whoever's doing it, if they're a reputable organization, we'll work with those organizations. I know I will.
Yeah, amen.
Thank you.
Okay. All
And
right.
if I might add,
Yes, ma'am.
that on MLK Day, MCDC, the Midtown Community Development Corporation, will be giving out books as a part of the MLK celebration. We did that last year as well.
That's right.
And they'll also be giving out laundry detergent and bleach to citizens who are in need of that as well. That'll be on Mayor McLeod Bethune Boulevard in front of Singleton's Cleaners, starting at 10 a.m.
All right, great. All right, thank you. All right, we have a motion. We have a second.
No,
No motion?
no motion there.
Well, I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
Second.
We'll take a motion from Commissioner Cantu and a second from Commissioner Reed. All those who are in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those who are in opposition, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Okay. We'll move on to item number 9, which is our public hearings. Item 9A is Growth Management and Planning Department, at Event Centers, Land Development Code Text Amendment. This is an ordinance on first reading, public hearing. An ordinance amending the City Land Development Code, amending LDC Article 5, Section 5.2, to add Event Center as a principal or special use in certain zoning districts, subject to use-specific standards, amending Article 11, Section 11.5, definitions, in association with the addition of the new use type above, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing an effective date. And Bob, do we need to vote on this one?
No vote, but we do need to take public comment.
Okay.
As a public hearing.
Okay. And I do have one speaker, Mr. Mayor, Mr. John Nicholson.
John Nicholson, 413 North Grandview Avenue. At the Planning Board, this was presented, and in it, only one of the CRAs was affected, Beachside. Anywhere on Beachside in a CRA, could be a community center, all right, an event center, in anywhere in the neighborhood by right. So I was told that they would look at this again and it would come before them, but apparently it's come before you before it went back to them. So I'm asking that the beachside not be singled out to have these events in our neighborhoods. It is not kosher in the entire city to single out only the CRA on beachside. Thank you.
That was my only speaker on 9A.
I don't understand.
This will come back for a final vote on January 18th.
All right,
Are there any questions or comments from the commission?
no question, no comment. No.
Okay. Then the public hearing is set for January 18th, 2023. Moving on to item 9B is the Growth Management and Planning, Smoking Lounges, Ordinance amending the city code relating to hookah bars and other types of smoking lounges. This is an ordinance on second reading, public hearing. An ordinance amending the Land Development Code, Article 3, Section 3.4.k, and Article 4, Section 4.2.b, to modify the dimensional standards for minor whoops, that is not. That is not what that says. Pardon me, folks.
While she's locating that, I do want to say that the new Beachside Elementary opened on Tuesday. And if you haven't seen photos of it, it's absolutely beautiful. And our children have a great space to learn in. It is a community school and very excited about it. As you all know, we had a fight to make sure we kept it at home. But we did win that battle, and we're happy with the school. Looks good.
Thank you, sorry.
It's all right.
It's an ordinance amending the City Code of Ordinances, creating Article 8 of Chapter 26 of the Code, consisting of Sections 26-351 through 26-352, to require smoking lounges such as cigar lounges, hookah lounges, and vaping bars to obtain extended hour permits in order to operate after midnight, authorizing smoking lounges such extended hours permits to operate until 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. on certain days, providing conditions that are substantially similar to the conditions established in the Section 10-3 of the Code, providing for extended hour permits for establishments dealing in alcoholic beverages, amending Section 10-3 of the Code to revise annual CPI adjustments for fees for extended hour permits for establishments dealing in alcoholic beverages, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date.
Is there no motion?
So move.
Okay.
Okay.
And I do have a number of speakers, Mr. Mayor. You would like to take those first?
Yeah, we'll hear the speakers because we better hear from them because that was the slowest motion I've heard since I've been up here. Go ahead. So we better listen.
Okay, our first speaker is John Nicholson, and on deck is William Biddorf.
John Nicholson, 413 North Granbury Avenue. I don't envy you guys this vote. It applies only to one place and one problem. There's nothing the gentleman who owns this hookah bar could do to prevent this mess. The kids are across the street from him at 2 o'clock. When the bar closes at 2 o'clock, all they have to do is walk across the street, which is what they do. And there's 300, 400, 500 kids that can't get in, that are standing in front of his business, on the sidewalk, in the street, in the parking area, on the side of the building, and in the parking lot in the back. He can't control that. Although I do admit there are problems inside, and I won't go into that because I haven't seen it firsthand. However, we have to do something about this because it's a problem. It's a problem for the neighborhood. It's a problem for the city. So I don't know how you're going to do this, but I don't want you to harm the other bars, the other hookah bars, because their funding comes after the bars close. That's where they make their money. So in essence, you will close, I think I'm told that there are 3 hookah bars. All 3 of them will be put out of business by what you do tonight. So I'm asking you to be very diligent to know why it's happening. Because remember, I went 6 months every Friday and Saturday to see what happens. And you could see the huge crowds right across the street. So we cannot have that continue. You guys have to find a solution. Thank you.
Our next speaker is William Bideroff, and on deck is Ann Ruby.
Well, Happy New Year to all of you. My name is William Bideroff. I live at 402 East International Speedway Boulevard. It's a very interesting thing because I was in the bar business for years, and in my opinion, I've also been in the security business also. I have a master's degree in criminal justice from Columbia. I got my undergrad actually here in Daytona, actually when it was DVCC, so I'm pretty old. Don't want to tell you how old I am. But in so many words, what was thinking in my process is possibly a fix could be hiring licensed unarmed security, because as an unarmed security guard, if I don't report a crime to the police and I witness it, it's a felony for me. So I think a lot of ways, when I was in the bar business some years ago, and I wasn't the man I am today, you know, people would hire guys off the street to bounce in their bars. Well, they weren't qualified. You know, it'd just be like somebody trying to be a teacher without all the degrees in education. So my suggestion is to get them an ordinance to hire licensed security with the state of Florida, which I think would make things simpler and more professional inside the places and possibly on our streets. I've tried to do that, and I've fixed a lot of problems with my place. So, I mean, plus, what can it hurt? It helps some kids get some jobs locally. Couldn't hurt us any. Anyway, I appreciate you all, and I have a lot of respect for everyone here because I couldn't do your job. It's a very difficult job you have today. And I have a lot of respect for every one of you here. And I appreciate you, and God bless all of you.
Thank you.
And especially you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Our next speaker is Ann Ruby, and on deck is Suzanne Odina.
Ann Ruby, 137 Park Avenue. First of all, I want to say thank you for the discussion at first reading. Thank you, Commissioner Strickland, for bringing it up and opening up this topic for discussion, and thank you all for participating in it. We don't hear a lot of discussion from you publicly on these things until after everybody's talked, and it was great to have that discussion prior to you having to vote, so thank you. I think this is a case where you're being reactive instead of proactive, and I don't envy you the reactive vote you're going to have to take tonight, because somebody's going home unhappy tonight. But I think in terms of being proactive, there are things we could do. Like, we could start using conditional use permits for things like this, so that they would have a permit, not a special alcohol license where they get to serve alcohol, but a conditional use. You can be a hookah lounge, but you're going to have to comply with this. We're going to have to see these standards met. And I think we could then target this troublemakers without blanket forbidding everybody who's a hookah lounge. Because we only have 3 right now, but we may have more who want to do it in the future, and it could be a profitable thing to do. I think some of the other things we could do would be to do some department store manipulation on the street. You know, very incredibly bright lights, things that people who look good in the dark may not look worth fighting over in the daylight, if it's that bright. And play calm music on the street. Comforting scents sprayed on the street. Like, I think there are probably ways to keep this calm. Because the one thing that's not going to happen, even if you vote yes on this, is after hours, people still need a place to go. And they're going to congregate. And I don't know how you forbid that. They're not going to evaporate. So, good luck with your vote. Thank you.
Okay. Our next speaker is Suzanne Odina, and on deck is Bradford Gonzalez.
Hi, I'm Sue Odina. I live at 716 North Wild Olive, Daytona Beach. And if I look tired tonight, that's because 2 mornings this week I was woken up by sirens. Now, my first thought was, who got killed? My second thought is, oh God, what happened now? Probably just a traffic stop. But immediately my thought went to the worst. That's because I live in Seabreeze. My neighbors and I are very, very concerned about our area. I've become a bit jaded. I chose to live here. I didn't choose to live in Chicago or LA or New York. Please listen to Jakari and Captain Niccolo. They do a fantastic job. They gave you a lot of information. I really don't understand why hookah bars are open from 10 until 5. 1,000 years ago, when I smoked as a teenager, I wasn't smoking from 10 until 5 in the morning. I don't understand that. I want you to clear the area after 2 a.m. Secondly, what I wanted to ask you was, please come to our welcome party. When they do open the substation, we hope that it'll make a whole lot of difference when they're there and have a permanent presence in our neighborhood. You're all welcome. Thank you.
Sue.
Our next speaker is Bradford Gonzalez, and on deck is Marjorie Johnson.
Well, good evening to everyone, and Happy New Year, not just to the commission, but also to the audience. My name is Bradford Gonzalez, and I live at 424 Riverview Boulevard, 2 blocks from the hookah bar that's near us. I don't know if you recall, about 2 months ago, there was a double murder. That double murder of the husband and wife took place in front of my house. I saw it out of my bedroom window. About a month ago, a young lady got shot and killed 3 blocks from our house or our neighborhood. Then I understand at the hookah bar about 2 weeks ago, a young man, 21 years old, was killed. So ask me if I really care whether the hookah bar stays open an extra hour or 2. Because that young man, 21 years old, was killed in the neighborhood of the hookah bar. And he was hanging out there. So whether the people make money or not that own the hookah bars, that's not our problem as citizens. Our issue as citizens is to provide a safer neighborhood for our kids, our seniors, and all of us that live there. So I would say, all things equal. You got the bars to close at 2, close the hookah bars at 2. They won't have anywhere to go. And if you have some policing, they're going to go home or they're going to go elsewhere. So I take these murder issues very serious, and I don't think that we should feed into it by letting these places stay open when necessarily they don't have to be open. And they can be equal to the bars. If we're going to be equal, let's be equal. Let them close it too, like the bars do. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir.
Our next speaker is Marjorie Johnson, and on deck is Doyle Lewis.
Good evening, City Commissioners. Happy New Year. Marjorie Johnson, 122 South Keith Street. I'm here tonight in favor of you allowing these hookah bars to operate until 5 a.m. You're always going to have problems when a bar is operating. I feel that if they hire security there to operate, that will solve the problem. These people need a place to go after you have closed the bars down at 2 a.m. I was not in favor of you doing that. These people need to make money. Stacey Cantu gave you all examples of how these bars are making their money. Same thing with these hookah bars. I've never personally been to a hookah bar, and I don't go to the other bars either, the ones that close at 2 a.m. But I feel that the people that do go there have the right to stay there as long as they are carrying themselves in a good fashion. So I don't feel that these people should have to pay for the mistakes of others. And I would advise all of you to vote and let these people operate and make money. The young people enjoy the hookah bars, and they should have the opportunity to be there. So I would encourage each one of you again to vote to let these people operate in these hookah bars. Thank you.
Okay. My next speaker is Doyle Lewis, and on deck is Antoine Gandy.
My name is Doyle Lewis, Daytona Beach, United States. I live on the sidewalk. Almost 14 years. I can see through the smoke screen here. I can see through the mental health issues here. I lost a good friend in March of last year because of smoking. At night, after midnight, only bad things happen. I've heard them, I've seen them, and I've watched them right here in Daytona Beach and the surrounding towns. I'm here to protect my elderly citizens tonight that's lived here so long they don't want to hear that anymore. I don't want to hear it anymore. Money is money. It's a smokescreen. Unarmed security guards. Sounds really great, but they can't do anything. I'm living proof things happen in 2 seconds or less. All it takes is one person lying about you. Make it a level playing field and let the people in these neighborhoods sleep. I'm looking at absolutely everybody behind me before I look at you. You are responsible for all the lives that are living in this town. This is a smokescreen. It's just not in a bottle. If you want to talk to me, come to my office. It's on the sidewalk every single day. I'm a home builder, I'm an architect, I'm an engineer. You want to sit down and talk? Let's talk. This is a smokescreen, so we can have noise in those neighborhoods every second of every hour of every minute. Shut it down and let them open whenever they want to open. But my grandpa used to smoke. Every person that I know smokes in this town. You don't have to do it after midnight. Thank you very much.
Okay. My next speaker is Antoine Gandy, and on deck is Sandy Murphy.
How everybody doing tonight? Antoine Gandy, owner of Hookah Pub, Daytona Beach, 502 Seabreeze. I just want to start off by saying, you know, with all these murders that was previously mentioned on the beachside area that had absolutely nothing to do with the hookah lounge, is kind of one of the reasons that, you know, we having this conversation right here today. The hookah lounges have been scapegoats for Seabreeze for quite some time. And, you know, I thought about, you know, like, what are we doing? Because, you know, when we got this place, and I admit when we got there, it was kind of in a bad place. But we took tremendous steps working with Jakari Young, hiring armed security officers, even off-duty police officers, whatever we could do to change the narrative of this place. And people like Lieutenant Garner, other officers commended us on doing an excellent job in doing that. You know, and I asked myself, well, why is it always this hookah lounge, when we actually is one of the safest places over there? And I said, well, went to the police station. Let me get a printout of all the incidents, just this last year. And you got places like different clubs, I'm not going into detail, with several murders just this year. Over 350 police calls to one venue, 5 stabbings at another venue. All of these things transpiring, but I don't hear about it. All I hear is hookah, hookah, hookah. And I'll ask myself, well, where's this same energy that's being pushed upon the hookah lounges that's not in these other places that continue to operate, continue to do whatever it is they're doing, but yet all of these things are transpiring. Had one isolated incident November when a young man was killed on Wild Olive after we had, closed. Prior to that, I don't think y'all can say we had any deaths, shootings, any acts of violence. This year, in fact, we only had 2 physical altercations. But yet and still, we're the blunt of everything that transpires on Seabreeze. We don't serve alcohol, so it's not like we're contributing to the drunkenness. Like I said in a previous meeting, we give people a place that might be too drunk. Thank y'all for the time.
Our next speaker is Sandy Murphy.
Good evening, Sandy Murphy, 136 Park Avenue. Happy New Year to everybody. I think that the real issue that you're trying to deal with isn't hookah and it isn't bars, it's public behavior. And we can shut down things in pieces and dribs and drabs, but unless we understand how to change that behavior, we're going to continue to have that problem. We're just going to displace it to a different time, to a slightly different area. It will continue to happen. The young people in our community need places to go for entertainment, and clearly the crowds at the hookah bar say this is a place that's appealing to them. So what is it that we can do to make it safe while it's appealing? And I think my belief is, first and foremost, it's lighting, 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 lighting. People will not do in the bright light of day things that they will do in the shadows, in the parking lots, behind the buildings. And if you walk down Seabreeze in the evening, you will find out that it's not very well lit. It offers lots of opportunities for people to act in the shadows. And I think if we fail to address that and fail to address other factors that affect the way that people behave, that we're just going to have this same problem in a different form over and over and over. So I encourage you to look at it in a broader way and to think about what it is that we can do to change the nature of behavior on that street. Thank you.
That was my final speaker.
All right. Do we have any comments from the commission? We have no comments.
So that I'm clear, what we're looking at is making them close. Just to be very clear, closing at 2 o'clock to align themselves with the bars, correct? And at about what time roughly do the streets clear out right now? With bars closed at 2, what time do the streets usually clear out? Anybody? Ms. Chief Young, anybody? Please.
And I'm sorry, before Chief comes up, did you sign up to speak, sir? Okay, you didn't sign up for this item. You signed up the wrong place, but did you want to speak on this item? Come on up. Come on up.
Sorry, come on up, sir. We're not going to hold you back. This is your item. We want you to tell us what you think and how you feel.
Yeah, it's for a different item, but that's okay. Go ahead.
This working? Okay. Thanks for the opportunity.
Name and address.
Quick on things like this. I'm really surprised.
Name and
by it, but
address, sir.
I don't get it. Can you hear me?
Name and address.
Jerry Wise, 6 Cormorant Circle, Daytona Beach,
6?
Florida.
Okay.
Pelican Bay.
All right.
All right. I don't hook anymore, but occasionally smoke cigars. I'm here tonight because it gets really tiresome and frustrating voting for politicians, and then when they get elected and get in, they start stripping away our freedoms and our liberties. They're always going to be punks and thugs that start trouble, commit crimes regardless of the time of day. In fact, the majority of the crimes that happen in Daytona Beach are not in the 2 hours after bars close or restaurant or hookah bars. Seabreeze is a fantastic entertainment center. I used to go there 40 years ago, spent a lot of time. Don't get down there as much now, older guy, okay? But there were fights then, it wasn't a big deal. Now, I'll admit, I haven't seen back then the stuff you see now, a little bit more dangerous on occasion. However, you don't penalize 98% that just want to go out and have some fun, or the workers who get off from serving, possibly your dinner that night earlier, okay? That just want to go out and maybe hang out with their friends or their coworkers or whatever. You don't punish the business who surely doesn't want to violate violence inside or around their establishment. It's not good business. We have great law enforcement in this town, Daytona Beach, and I support them tremendously. They can handle it, they always have. And to economics, at this point, you really can't tell what's going to happen with this. But they always say 1 hour or this, what's the big deal? Well, pulling numbers from one establishment just 6 months ago that lost 1 hour, it cost the city $5,000 in 6 months. They're coming off a sales tax, $75,000 out of gross. That's $10,000 sales tax, $150,000 gross taxes lost. Okay, that doesn't take into account the vendors or the suppliers. In addition, and very hurtful, approximately $2,000 in income in the course of a year to the young and the most that are working in the service industry, okay, that have lost a lot of money at it, and that's based on 4 employees. Medium incomes, U.S. Census, $26,000 for Daytona Beach. All right, I got too much here, okay, so I'm gonna have to go to this because I see what the time is. And concerning the complaints from some of the residents of Seabreeze, these guys, 40-plus years. I've been here since 1977. They complain all the time. The city has spent thousands of dollars building barricades to block the roads for them, okay? It's enough, man. This is an entertainment zone. They remind me of the people in New Smyrna I read about in the hometown news that they moved near an airport, and then they bitch about the planes, So there's solutions for it. You guys need to get together. I think you should get together, law enforcement, you get together with the owners. I noticed you said you had a problem. One of the places was a big problem.
Thank
So
you,
you looked
sir.
at them.
Your time's
but in the
up,
end-
sir.
I'm sorry.
Thank
You penalize them, you put fines up.
Your time's up.
Thank you, sir.
Go ahead.
Actually, I was doing out of this, I had much more. The streets locked, you only had about 4 hours to put it together. Thanks.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. Deputy Chief Jennifer Witt at Daytona Beach Police Department. Good evening to you all, commissioners, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Manager. To answer your question, it really depends on the crowd. If bars are completely empty by 2 a.m., we can have the crowd off of Seabreeze or the large gatherings of crowds off of Seabreeze by 2:15, 2:30 at the latest. On the weekends when it's packed, like this past weekend with it being the New Year on a Saturday night, we had the crowds mostly disseminated by 2:45, 3 o'clock.
And since the establishment is still open late, what's the impact, you think, of staying open until 5 o'clock? How long does it take you to clear everybody out past 5 o'clock?
Again, it would depend on the crowd. I mean, if the numbers
Best
are
night,
the same-
worst night. Best night,
I was
worst
gonna
night.
say, if the numbers are the same at 2 o'clock as it is at 5 o'clock, it's gonna be the same amount. If it's a busy holiday weekend and everything is packed till 5 in the morning, it's gonna take us 45 minutes to clear, 45 minutes to an hour to clear that area where we have no more crowds gathering.
Where are these people parking? In general, on the Seabreeze area, where do they do most of their parking? In the neighborhoods, or do they park in parking lots back there? The Wells Fargo, where are they parking?
Wells Fargo is closed. You cannot park in Wells Fargo, but there are other businesses that have parking lots. They charge you to park. They're parked down Seabreeze. They're parked on all the side streets, down Wild Olive, Oleander, Grandview. So they park, I would draw a circle around Seabreeze, and they park that general area into the neighborhood, down Seabreeze, in whatever parking lots that they're allowed to park in.
And so around 2, 3, 4 in the morning, they're then traversing through those neighborhoods to get to the vehicles.
Correct.
Okay, and then 444 Seabreeze, it's a big office building.
Yes.
Are they allowed to park back there? Is that public parking, or are they renting out the parking or doing paid parking back there or anything like that?
That I'm not sure. I know there's parking back there, but I don't know if it's being paid for or it's open to the public. That I'm not sure.
There's no parking back there.
So people are parking in the neighborhoods, but not necessarily where the
Not
barricades
parking
are.
at
But
444.
there's no parking
I've
there.
met with 444 and they don't want anybody.
Any parking there?
Right. I know they have the median. Some companies are parking in their parking lot. Like I said, I don't know if it's open to the public for anyone general to park in.
So are people parking all the way over to Oak Ridge, crossing Oak Ridge along those areas? So you have Seabreeze, next street over is Oak Ridge. They're parking in all of those little residential neighborhoods and then walking through to Seabreeze.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have a question? No, you can't talk right now, sir. Do we have other questions for the deputy chief?
Well, I have a concern regarding the music. It sounds as if that's also disturbing the neighbors. So they're not just hookahing. They're also playing music like a club or something.
Again, it's going to depend on the time of the year, but yes, the front doors to the businesses do get propped open at times, and then you can hear the music coming out of the business. They're not playing music out loud like on a sidewalk or anything like that. A lot of the music comes from the cars that are parked on Seabreeze along the way that have their music coming also. So I can't say directly that the majority of the music's coming from the hookah bars at night after the bars close. At times there can be based on when the door or the weather is and they have the doors propped.
I don't have a question, but I'm listening to what the citizens are saying, and you know, I really appreciate when Ann and Sandy come forward. They usually make a lot of sense compared to some people we listen to. And did I say that? Hurtful voice. But you know, I can understand young people trying to make a legitimate business and coming to our town. Both of the owners that we've heard from in the past few weeks, one is a graduate of Bethune-Cookman, one is a graduate of Embry-Riddle, which are both institutions that are very dear to me. Graduate of one, work at the other. And they're striving to supply a need, and obviously there's a need. And now, I never stayed out to 5 o'clock in the morning, but this is a different day for these young people. So on one hand, I'm concerned about them and their businesses, but on the other hand, we have to be concerned about the citizens as well. I like what was said about lighting the street. So often we are reactive because something has to happen for us to react. We wouldn't have known hookah was coming, but Seabreeze has probably needed light for some time now. And, you know, just brightening up the street. So I want us to consider what can we do to try to help both sides based on what we've heard this evening.
Another question that I have is, I'm not sure who can address this. The concept that if you have 3 violations in a year, your permit is pulled. Is that right? Because we close at 12. We have a special permit to stay open until 2. Are we actually doing that? Are we actually, when people because I've heard business owners, I've heard residents, I've listened, multiple violations for certain bars, clubs, or all over the place. What do we actually do about them? Like, what is the fine? What do they ever, has anyone ever had their permit pulled for poor behavior? Have we ever done that?
That I'm not aware of. I know there was a time, but it was several years ago that was addressed. I don't know if that's something that, I mean, we write reports every time we have an issue, but would think that licensing and permits, we would have to work with them on saying, hey, we have these violations, and they would be the ones. I don't know that the police department can just go pull.
Is that actually something in our bylaws, that if you have violations?
Let me address that. So you're referring, of course, now to the after-hours permit for alcoholic establishments. And your question is whether or not we've ever suspended a permit for not complying with the conditions, such as too many calls for service would be one of the conditions. It's actually the city commission that suspends the permit. So I think we know that that hasn't happened with this commission. But it is a possibility if an establishment that has a permit doesn't comply with the conditions of holding the permit, has too many calls for service, has too many issues with certain crimes or illegal parking, they can be brought before this commission and their permit can be suspended for a period of time.
Is suspended. They can still operate till midnight, but not just till 2 o'clock. And they would also lose the right to work till 3 o'clock in our special events, but
During
just
this-
operate till 12.
Correct.
Okay, who tracks that generally? Is it something that we have to request? Is it permitting, licensing? Who tracks that?
Code enforcement would be the enforcement arm.
Okay.
They would issue the notice of violation.
Mr. Mayor, I'm not going to support this tonight. And I'm going to tell you why I'm not going to support this tonight. And that is, I heard from the one hookah bar owner the last meeting. He was a bit spirited and passionate, but I understood that he was passionate about his business. And then I heard from the police chief, and that he said, correct me if I'm wrong, they had no calls.
No, he didn't say that.
What did he say? He had very few calls from?
Meaning not the other establishment. That's not true.
No, I'm
They-
talking about the.
They have calls from from that establishment, correct?
As far as I'm aware of, yes, both
26.
establishments, one was just a lot lower than the other establishment.
Wasn't a Poco, near Poco.
It may not have been zero, but
Like
it.
26 or 33. I don't remember the number, but there are a fair number of calls. But carry on.
Okay, I'd like to know how many calls from the other, because from what no, I would like, well, I don't want you speaking out, so,
Yeah.
because I don't want any problems. But I'm not going to support it tonight. I'm not going to support it because, one, I understand that 2 o'clock is late for many of us at a certain age, but it's, we're probably asleep by 10 or 11, but young people aren't all asleep at 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning. And I think that we have to find some balance. We're going to have to find balance as a city because we want young people to stay here. We want them to move here. We want them to come, and we want them to work in our communities. And we want to avoid bright flight, where our brightest decide that they're going to leave because they don't find this area fulfilling enough for them. We don't want them to graduate college and just decide there's nothing in Daytona to do or to offer us. And I think that if we sit down and we can find a happy median. I really feel like we can find it, especially after hearing Sandy's comments and hearing, some of the other residents over there, their comments. I feel like we can find a happy median. I'm not going to do all or nothing. I feel like we should be able to revisit this, come back with something that we all may not completely be happy with, even if it's not 5 o'clock, even if it's 4 o'clock. I just believe that I don't want to do all or nothing. I'm not going to commit to all or nothing. And that's where I'm going to stand. I'm going to tell you right now where I'm standing on it, as I always do.
Yes, you do. Do we have any other comments, questions? Yes, ma'am.
The calls that are coming in, is it between 2 and 5?
I know the chief has already spoken on some of these calls, so I don't have the same information that he had when he had all the work up and the statistics done, so I apologize, I don't have that tonight. I can't tell you if most of the calls, I don't have the breakdown of when exactly all the calls are coming in, reference the hookah lounges and what their times are. I apologize for that.
And I guess I'm intrigued by the idea that even if we've had 15 calls, Mr. Attorney, if we've had 15 calls, does that fall into the issue with if you have 3 violations in a year? Just if this was a bar and the bar had 15 calls, what would happen? Would that fall into that little rule
It
of having
would
your conditional permit revoked or your permit revoked?
There are 2 paragraphs within the proposed ordinance. If we're talking, and the requirements are the same regardless of whether you're alcohol or a smoking lounge. So we can speak to those together. If you have excessive calls for law enforcement service, that's defined as 3 or more instances of a law enforcement call for service associated with the smoking lounge during or within 1 hour of operation. Now, that particular violation has to be related to a call for service for specific crimes in close proximity to the establishment. And it is specifically vandalism, underage drinking, open containers, crimes of violence such as rape, et cetera. So you've got those kind of calls. If there's 3 or more, then you'd be subject to a suspension.
So would you say that just generally that it falls into that category where it's happened in the surrounding areas? That they would fall into that 3 or more? 15, 20, 30, whatever it is, would it fall into that category?
You're talking about the crime that's being committed.
Yeah, it would. Okay. All right.
My next question. So Follow the Smoke is which one?
The one on Grandview.
Okay. And they have new owners, right? Or how long have these particular owners owned this? Can I hear from their owners, Mr. Mayor?
6 months, 7 months.
7 months that you all have owned it?
Yeah.
In the 7 months that you've owned it, you've had 0?
No, we can't talk to them like that. No.
Sure if they could come up?
Well, they're not the owners. Is the owner here?
I asked you if the owner could come up.
Is the owner here? The owner's walking in. Well, you the owner. Come on up then. You his wife, and you the owner. I don't have nothing my wife don't own. Oh, I know. I mean, we Yes, ma'am. Commissioner has a question for you.
Hello, good evening.
Hello. My question was, and you answered it back then, you've owned it for how long?
7 months.
And you've had how many calls in those?
0 calls.
And I'd like to know what you all are doing for as far as security.
We have security at the door. We have security inside. We make sure the area is very safe, and there's no drinking.
What do you contribute to not having any calls? How have you all been able to successfully do that?
We just make sure that any violence is not in our area.
And how do you do that?
Can I have one of our members talk on my behalf?
You can.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is J.C. Witt. I believe I spoke last time to you. I work the door and help with security. We do a cover charge to get in. If someone doesn't want to pay the cover, that just means that they don't want to be there. They are the ones that ensue the bad, things happening. So we keep all the people out that we don't feel that they should be in there. If anyone comes across the street from another bar intoxicated, we will not give them admittance. We keep everything very calm and
Okay.
it's very, I don't know.
So what you're saying is it's doable?
Yes, it's very doable, yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Do we have a...
Last question.
That's your last question? Do we have any other questions, Ms. Commissioner Strickland?
I'm not in a good position with this, just like with the bar closing time. I was elected to represent, not to lead. I personally favored with the bars 10 in the morning to 8 in the morning. You know, nobody liked that because they don't all get there at the same time. They don't all leave at the same time. But when it comes to the hookah lounge, I'm in the same situation. I have to represent the people in that neighborhood who have suffered through noise and violence and the different things that go on there. As I said, I'm a 10 in the morning to 8 in the morning guy, and that would apply well with this. Nobody's buying that. We want to try to control everything. I remember back during the Pam Woods era, there's probably people in the room have no idea who she is, but her ideas were with our events and with problems in different areas where it's too much trouble, it needs to downsize. It's too much trouble, we need to do away with it. We're in the 21st century. We're a tourist town. We really do need to up our game and learn how to manage our events, change the way we do it. When I hear people say, well, that's the way we've always done it, it makes what little hairs on the back of my neck stand up. Why? You know, we need to move, as Pierre calls it, the digital age, out of the analog age. So I've got to support closing because I represent people that want closing. I personally don't agree with the change in the closing time, but I'm going to vote for the closing time until we can come up with something in the 21st century to manage what's going on so that it's palatable for the customers, the businesses, the residents, and we can get maximum revenue out of it for everybody without it being too much burden on one group. But that neighborhood, you looking for a clock?
No, I was thinking of something about Seabreeze. I looked up there to see if it was on that.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I didn't mean to.
You asked, I told you.
I thought you wanted me to be quiet. You were looking for the clock. But at any rate,
It's right here.
I have to represent my people. I can't vote for this with good conscience when I have residents that I represent that want this to change. So I'll be voting in favor of changing the closing time. Hopefully down the road we can come up with something else that that'll help us to manage what we have going on a daily and weekly, monthly basis, and to help us manage our special events better too in the future, because the way we've always done it is not doing very good for us at this point in time. And we're having a bike week workshop coming up soon. We need to discuss this with great seriousness because I don't think we, as a tourist town, we're doing a horrible job of managing our tourism.
I don't agree with that.
Well, you might not agree with horrible, but we're not doing as good a job as we could and should be doing.
Okay.
And with that, I'm done.
All right. Any other questions, ma'am, or comments?
So this week I spoke with one or two of the hookah business owners, and I spoke with some young people who frequent these places. I was hoping some of them would be here this evening. And I thought to myself, staying open till 2 o'clock, that is not just an assumption, right? It's a privilege that we extend, staying open till 2. Is that right? It's not a right. It's something that you have to apply for. Is that correct?
Well, it's a right now, but it's something that we have the right to regulate.
Exactly.
Currently,
So it's a
they can stay
privilege of
open all
some
night.
sort because we're looking at it, right? That's how I see it. It's a way to stay open till 2 to make extra money. We were till 3. Okay, that was a privilege. We went to 2. So my question is, why is it that we cannot find a way that they can earn it as opposed to giving it? And so my thought process were, why can't businesses first show us that they can behave a particular way by closing at 2, behaving correctly, controlling their crowds, controlling what goes on in the environment as well. and then we discuss it at a later time as opposed to keeping it where it is now. But the concept of, we just let things happen and we don't say, show us what you can do to earn something. I'd like them to earn it back at some point, if it's possible. It may never be possible. If we close at 2, and guess what? Things don't change, then we don't go to 5. It's a situation of I'm happy to evolve whatever rules we have, but we first have to get back to a baseline. And right now, our baseline is violence and killings. That's our baseline. I'd like to move from that.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to see all the statistics because I was originally against closing the bars at 3 o'clock. I grew up here. I was on Seabreeze when I was in my 20s, and there was never trouble like this. I was told that if we move it back to 2 o'clock, it would stop. Now it's the hookah bars. We need to move that back to 2 o'clock for it to stop. So I just want to know, because the police are saying if we close the hookah bars at 2 o'clock, we're not going to have the violence anymore. I mean, and I did Google a lot of the hookah bars, and most of them close at 2 o'clock all the way to Longwood.
That's right.
So, I mean, if we're gonna close bars at 2 o'clock, I think we need to be fair all around. I mean, like I said, I prefer the bars to stay open to 3 o'clock, like they always have been, but we voted.
Hookahs aren't bars. They don't make,
But-
they don't make their money the way bars make their money. They don't sell alcohol. So you gotta see that total, you can't see them as the same thing. It's unfair. It's unfair to see them as the
But
same thing.
they are regulated by alcohol and tobacco, correct?
Understand, but putting one and one together, we can say, okay, so they're regulated by this, but they still don't do the same thing. They don't make their money the way bars make their money. It's hard for them to make the kind of money that bars can make. So if we're only allowing them a certain amount of hours to make that money, they're not gonna make that kind of money the way bars can make that kind of money. And if police department can clear the street in 15 minutes, why does it matter if the hookah bars stay open? I've driven by the hookah bars. I drove by them the other night, the other week. I didn't hear any noise coming out of them because I don't think that the way that they do business isn't like a club or a restaurant. If they are doing business as a club or restaurant, then that's a different story. That's something that we need to talk about. But if they're running their business as a hookah bar, it's not the same as running a nightclub.
Okay.
Commissioner, I'd like her to answer the question. So you're telling us if the hookah bars close at 2 o'clock, we've solved the problem on Seabreeze?
No.
I would love to predict and know when I can prevent crime and solve the problem. Of course, I cannot say that. I don't know when somebody's going to decide to shoot somebody or when somebody's going to decide to get into a fight. But what I can tell you is when there are large crowds that gather with a lot of people around, some with a lot of alcohol involved, we need to disperse those crowds quickly before they become something, before they become violent. So if I can clear out Seabreeze and not have lingering hookah bars that are allowing people to stay 2 hours later with another crowd, if I can clear out Seabreeze all at one time with the lounges and the bars and the clubs, then I can prevent, hopefully, anything from happening on Seabreeze. Again, I may be dispersing a crowd to go to somebody's house where they're now going to get into a fight there. I can't predict where the violence is going to be. But I can assume that in a crowd, a big crowd with a lot of people and alcohol involved, that there will be some kind of disturbance. So my whole goal is to clear it out as soon as possible, not have bars close and then have to wait 2 more hours and have the hookah lounges emptying out now that we, again, have to disperse a crowd.
Okay.
I would like to clear them all out at once.
And do we have drinking out in the cars after the bars close?
I'm sure we do. I would have to look up stats. I mean, I'm sure we do have people that have drinks in their vehicles when they leave.
Okay.
You have a question, comment?
No, I just have another comment. You know, at one time I had a business here and it stayed open till 2. During special events, it was till 4. In the early days of that business, there was an ABC next door, and you know, a lot of activity outside. But I knew from the very beginning, if I wanted to stay in business, that whatever went on in my parking lot and whatever went on in my neighborhood,
I was responsible.
I had to deal with it. And to say, oh, well, it's down the street. No, baby, that's your whole neighborhood. You need to take care of that and not sit back and allow stuff to go on that's not normal in normal people's lives, and to try to put it off. Well, it's not at my business. Doesn't matter. It's in your neighborhood. So anyway.
Yeah. Commissioner Cantu, we were on your line of questioning.
All right, that's fine.
That's it? No other? Do we have any other comments? All right.
I want to say one more thing.
Yes,
You know, we are
ma'am.
that governing body. We are the ones that make the decisions. Even if we were to vote tonight for that time change, if we were to sit down with these young people and try to come up with some solution in the future, we could always come back and revisit this again. It doesn't have to be the end all to the situation, but we do need some type of decision tonight. So that's something to consider. We are the people that make the decisions. So it doesn't have to be a final decision. Something that we could work
We
on.
can always go back.
Okay?
Let me say this. The first thing is, and I obviously have taken a lot of notes and understand this earlier speaker's concern about liberty and freedom. While Jefferson and Washington were libertarians and freedom provokers, but they also did that within the confines of certain constraints. There's no such thing as just free and laissez-faire, not in a civilized society or community. If, as a mayor, I have one, I believe, most important job, it is to be the protector of this city's reputation. And a part of protecting a reputation is trying to create an environment where safety and security is most important, and that there is a way that people who live here feel safe and secure. Seabreeze was once a town, wasn't always a part of our city. And it is not fair to say that all of a sudden you're just stripping away the rights of the people who do business on that block, because it was always a community before it was, as some people have labeled it, and it is not an entertainment zone. It is not that. It has, over the years, because of people who sit where we sit, who allowed it to become such, that it lost its focus as a community. But the people who live there have always been tight and strong. And it's not a small amount of people in our community. As Ken would tell you, it's a lot of people who live there, and there are a lot of people who are affected by it. A lot of people who are deeply, intensely, emotionally affected by it because it is where they live. And so the second thing for me is always that while business is always important, it is always difficult to balance between a person's business rights and the community's rights as a resident and someone who lives in a certain place. That's a challenge. And so you look at all of that, you look at how many people, you look at how many businesses are in effect. And I've already laid it down 10 years ago who I was going to support. And I was Zone 5 Commissioner the first time that I pushed for restricting bar closing. I was not the mayor. I was Zone 5 Commissioner because I believed that it was the right thing to do for the people of Seabreeze and Daytona Beach. I remind you all that just the other night on Nova Road, we had another shooting at a similar place where 3 young people were shot. Now, I respect young people and have taught them and mentored them for the last 30 plus years. and long time ago was one of them, who on a rare occasion went to Seabreeze. I don't know how rare, but it's about as rare as it gets. But with that not being the issue is that we have a responsibility to create a reputation for our community, and this ain't the reputation that I'm trying to create. Now, the second question for me is, who do we listen to? You got a couple businesses. They ain't paying the amount of taxes that the gentleman talked about. The residents paying way more taxes than that. So if we want to talk about taxes and economic income, they're not influencing our community to that degree, and they're not hiring that many people. But that's not to say that you don't respect their business, because you always want to support small business. It's the backbone of any community. However, we as a commission created an environment that allowed them to flourish. And the third thing I want to say is, who are you listening to? The second thing is, who are you listening to? Are you listening to the chief, who, when we swore him in, I gave him my word that I was personally going to be supporting what he brought to me. And I'm rock solid behind him, because I think he's doing a rock solid job. Okay? So I'm going to stay rock solid with him until he shows me something differently. So then the other thing is, we have to remember that these lounges are clearly dependent upon the bars. They evidently can't care themselves. And let's stop pretending that all of these people are necessarily our young people, because we proved this when we went through the bar closing, that almost over half the people who come down there are not from Daytona Beach. They don't belong to us, and we don't have an obligation to entertain them. Let them go to Ormond Beach or Holly Hill or Port Orange or Orlando, who has reduced their hookah lounge hours. So why would we keep the same hours when they reduce theirs? So nightlife certainly has a place, but it should not usurp home life. So we, and it's not our job to do everything for these environments. I've heard this tonight. Lighting. Why do we have to provide lighting? Now, not that I don't believe in lighting, because I've talked about it, but why should we have to provide lighting to shine a light on somebody so that they don't commit a crime, or that they don't govern themselves according to the way that we, as a community, the standards that we've set? And I'm not saying that we shouldn't have better lighting. I'm just saying that you're passing the onus back to the city, back to the police department, when the onus is on those who want this lifestyle that's disrupting home life for other folks. And so those are the thoughts that I have. And I've been with the people of Seabreeze for the last almost 15 years. Doesn't mean I don't feel that I'm opposed to other folks, but I'm riding with the people of Seabreeze. And I'm riding with the chief. And so if we want to come back later and find out that there's another way, but tonight for me, this is the way. So we will entertain a roll call vote.
Okay. Commissioner Henry. No. Commissioner Reed.
Yes.
Commissioner Paris.
Yes.
Commissioner Strickland.
Yes.
Commissioner May.
Yes.
Commissioner Cantu.
This one's very hard because I support small businesses, but I'm also going to support our law enforcement, so I'm going to say yes.
Mayor Derek L. Henry.
Yes. Motion carries 6-1.
Okay.
All right.
That concludes our public hearing items. So we're going to move on to item number 10, which is our administrative items. I'm going to give everyone a second to Okay. So we're going to move on to item 10A, the Growth Management and Planning Department, Daytona West Community Development District, CDD. This is an introduction of an ordinance An ordinance granting the petition of Avalon Park Daytona Land Holding LP for establishment of a community development district, creating and establishing the Daytona West Community Development District, providing for name, powers, and duties, providing description and boundaries, providing initial members of the Board of Supervisors, providing severability, and an effective date. Are there any questions or comments? That's okay. From the commission on this item.
This is a big deal, y'all.
Do we have anybody from anywhere that we can ask questions to?
Administrative.
There's staff. Mr. Morris, did you want to?
It looks like Lou Poley back there.
But the room sure clear.
I think that Ms. Hosseini's here, so she's the advocate for it. I can ask the question.
I'm sorry.
Hey, Kim. Good evening. For the record, Nika Hosseini with the law firm of Cobb Cole, 231 North Woodland Boulevard in DeLand. Happy to answer any questions. It's a CDD, so it's not directly related to the actual construction or development of the of Avalon Park itself, but it is a potential district that can be in place for it.
Okay, we have 771 and a half acres, right?
Correct.
You have 131 acres that you're going to preserve as wetlands, correct?
Correct.
Here's the question. How many of those 771 and a half acres were total wetlands before you took the 131 out?
I don't know. So that's a part of the construction of Avalon Park itself. This is simply establishing a community development district. This has nothing to do with permitting, construction, or anything of that nature.
Well,
so they're separate, right? This is to establish a community development district.
I understand what you're saying, but you happen to be the person that the only person I have to ask the question to. 771 acres and a half.
Correct.
How many out of that total was wetlands to begin with? And I know you're going to do 131 preserved, but I want to know what the total part of that 771 was, wetlands to begin with, aquifer recharge area, if you will, whatever. But you don't know that answer.
No, so that would come forward to you, and you'll have an engineering team here when they're going through the entitlement process and want to plat, or which is subdividing, or go through site plan.
To me, it's a little late at that point, but thank you.
Of course.
This CDD doesn't give them permission or authority to, does this give them permission or authority to tax themselves?
Yes, sir. Jim Morris, Deputy City Manager, does give them the authority to tax the residents of the property subsequent to the development. So the residents actually pay into the CDD. That reimburses the developer over the cost of the infrastructure that goes into the development. In respect to the, if I may,
yes.
In respect to Mr. Fisher-Strickland's question, it is simply a taxing tool, and I understand the way that her law firm ordinarily operates. I doubt she's involved in the development part of it in the wetlands. She's dealing with the taxing aspects of it, which is why she's not referring to your question. But when we come to development review, Commissioner Strickland, where you have the power to say yes or no to that development, you'll be able to have the answer to the questions about wetlands. And I imagine the question will be conveyed either this evening or pretty early in the morning, so they will have an answer for you when they come back.
I'm sure they will.
Yes, sir. Does that answer your question, Mayor?
Yes, it does answer my question. So the purpose of this, by and large, is to help them to fund the infrastructure, which
it is that.
At the end of the day, is not our, it's much better for us the way that they do it.
And from the perspective of that, that doesn't affect the tax revenue to the city that people pay in addition to. We pay they pay property taxes to us based on valuation, which is probably increases valuation overall.
So it's actually beneficial to us because they end up paying more taxes and they choose to live there. And so they don't mind being taxed. Okay, do we have any additional questions? No questions? Okay.
The public hearing for this item is January 18th.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 10B, it's a growth management and planning, Wilder Street Small-Scale Comprehensive Plan Amendment. This is an ordinance on first reading, or an introduction of an ordinance on first reading. An ordinance adopting a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment in accordance with Section 163.3187 Florida statutes in relation to 2.37 plus or minus acres of land generally located along and east of Ridgewood Avenue, north and south of Wilder Avenue, north and south of Wilder Boulevard, amending the future land use map designation of portions of the subject property from level 2 residential, 1.36 plus or minus acres, and office transition, 1.01 plus or minus acres, to retail, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date. And are there any questions or comments from the commission on this item? Okay, so the public hearing on this item will be January 18th. Okay, we're going to move back then to item 8B, which was pulled from the consent agenda. So 8B is City Manager's Office, Daytona Beach Racing and Recreational Facilities District Grant Application, Jackie Robinson Ballpark. It's a resolution supporting the submittal of an application to the Daytona Beach Racing and Recreational Facilities District for grant funds in the amount of $625,000 for the construction of the new community building at the Jackie Robinson Ballpark, authorizing the city manager or his designee to execute all necessary documents in furtherance of this grant application and providing an effective date. And Drew Driscoll will present. I'm sorry.
All right, do I have a second?
Maybe they didn't hear me. So moved.
Second.
All right, thank you. Second slowest one. Motion and a second.
Good evening, Drew Driscoll, Deputy City Manager, Fire Chief, and amateur yo-yo artist. Before you this evening is a grant application for the Race and Rec Facilities District grant for the Daytona Beach Club, which is a multi-use community facility at the Jackie Robinson Ballpark. At this facility, if approved in the overall project of the Jackie Robinson renovation project, we could see hosting cultural and educational events, community meetings, workshops, in addition to rental activity. The item before you this evening, no new money is being requested for this item. As you recall, we previously put in for ECHO grant, which if awarded will come back to you in the future. The same thing here. We are using that money we already set aside for the ECHO grant and pulling double duty, almost a 2-for-1 if you would, and using it to apply towards this. If we're awarded the $625,000 we're putting in or requesting, we could either put that money back in the bank, reprogram it to another project, or help it on the larger scale Jackie Robinson Ballpark project. As previously discussed, this grant opportunity has no impact whatsoever to any other future grant applications we may make for City Island Ballpark, or I'm sorry, City Island Rec Building. In fact, we would actually recommend trying the same effort where we use two sources of income to pay for the City Island Rec Building if that project moves forward. I don't believe that they are in competition. I think they're two separate projects, is my humble opinion. I think they cater to two different client bases. In fact, I think the two buildings or two projects not only could coexist, but I think they actually would have a symbiotic relationship as they could defer client bases for rental purposes to one facility or the other. What I provided you this evening is what you've already previously received at the Jackie Robinson Renovation Project Workshop. On page 3 of the project summary, that's just a brief overview of what we envision for the multi-use community facility. And additionally, there's a rendering packet just to give you for illustrative purposes, to give you a visual of what it could be. You'll notice that there's the green structural columns included in the Daytona Beach Club, and that's to give that historic appeal and be complementary to the existing historic grandstands. We've had conversation with a citizen that enjoyed that so much and felt that the clubhouse, if constructed, should also have something complementary to the historic feel of the area, not only complementary to the grandstand, but Orange Avenue and the legacy of Jackie Robinson himself. And if I could answer any questions, I'm available.
I wanted to have a discussion about this because you addressed them quite nicely, saying that if we had the Daytona Beach Club, that they would then be able to refer potential guests to the City Island Rec. My thought was, you know, we've put so much time and effort into promoting City Island Recreation Center as a venue space, a meeting space, all of these activities. Why are we doing a second one? But you've addressed them. It's not going to impact A or B, correct?
In my opinion, it would not hurt. I think it would assist.
Okay.
Similar to the symbiotic relationship we're working with Riverfront Esplanade. It's not a competition for Beach Street. It's actually a supplement to engage more people downtown.
Who's going to be running it? Who's responsible for running it?
That would be dictated in the lease if we end up moving forward with the overall project. Mr. Fietcher has already begun the process or directed me to begin the process of working with the Tortugas of how to manage what is the revenue sharing aspect of that. Is it all of our revenue? Is it partially their revenue? Because on game day for ticketed events, they would utilize the facility. For non-game day, we would be able to operate the facility.
And that's my concern. My concern is when we have public spaces, who is marketing the space? Who is running the space? It is an actual business entity. It's an asset for us. So we build one more asset, and then we don't actually use it for what it's intended. That's what I don't want to have happen again. We have enough with City Island Rec promoting that. They did a great job of coming up with these great ideas. Now we have to move forward and actually make it a business, a viable business, to sustain itself. I don't want to see this being another public building that we're paying for, but that we're not utilizing all the time.
Correct.
To make it worth its while. That's all.
Yes, ma'am.
No further questions or comments?
I got one.
Yes, sir.
If we spend the money for this, you just said you're going to be the point man on a new lease. Will there be any requirements if we build this that the Tortugas have a time limit as to how long they will stay here? They will be part of what we have going on, and rather than us spending money building something, they go away. We don't have a team here. That's my concern.
Yeah, that's a good question.
One of the the key things that we're looking, they don't have a long-term lease with us now. That is before we bring anything back to the elected officials about spending the public's money from a 15 to 30 to 40 million. That has to be part of the discussion of a lease agreement with not only the Tortugas but Major League Baseball going forward. But that decision has to be brought back to the elected bodies. No need for us to even make a recommendation to the commission to spend money if they're not willing to contribute to that at a substantial amount. And so that lease, we only have a one-year lease with them right now, and staff will be working to determine bringing back a lease to you all that will be beneficial for our community. And if there's no long-term commitment that we're able to identify, there's no need for us to create another 10, 20, 30-year lease.
Thank you.
And my concern overall is always maintenance. We've seen poor examples. We've seen lots of examples, I guess, of just we're not maintaining our buildings. The more buildings we have, the more we have to maintain, and it costs money, especially a new building. So those are my big concerns with this.
Yeah.
When it comes to that, I think now that we're the body that's responsible, we need to be responsible. That's in the past. Let's move forward. We're taking care of what we've got.
Okay.
I have a question.
You have a speaker?
I have a question, though.
Yes.
Okay. From what I was told, to get it up to standards from Major League Baseball, it's going to cost us $13 million. What investment does the team put in, or this entity, the Tortugas?
We're not there yet.
So we have not worked on the lease yet with the organization, but there's a holistic project that includes more than Major League standards. Just to refresh, if we're looking at just Major League standards alone, it's approximately 15 to 17 million for the clubhouse facility. If we looked at the holistic project, part of the renaissance of downtown, it could be upwards of 30, but it's also whatever we dictate it to be. Sorry.
It's for the clubhouse?
If we're looking at just the numbers provided by a third party that's not under contract to the city, they looked at 15 to 17 just for the clubhouse, not this building, This is the baseball locker room clubhouse.
Okay.
Daytona Beach Club, as you can see in the grant application, was 4.3 million.
And remember, that's really what Major League Baseball wants. They want the facility to be to the standard so that it is professional.
That's my concern. I mean,
That's-
I like multi-use.
That's not multi-use. The multi-use is another part. But I think we're ahead of ourselves on all of that. But that facility is not multi-use, right?
The facility we're discussing this evening is a multi-use.
No, that's what I'm talking about.
Other side.
No, I'm talking about this facility. I mean, I'm
No,
looking for a
I'm talking
multi.
about the other side.
Yeah.
So the baseball locker rooms is a facility for the Tortugas and their partnership with Bethune-Cookman University Baseball.
Seeing this evening is 4.75 million. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Right. Okay, do we have any other questions? I'm in favor, we have to go get the money. If we're gonna get it done, this is a part of getting the money.
Fine.
So, let's go get this money and worry about, we got other things to worry about. This is a humongous issue. And I know it, you know it, but, this is a part of it. If we sit here tonight and beat up over this, you know, we got to get it. And whatever other, things you can do to get money, bring them before us.
We're trying, sir.
Okay?
And I do have one speaker,
Yeah,
Mr. Mayor.
bring 'em on up.
Ann Ruby.
Ann Ruby, 137 Park Avenue. I haven't seen the pictures. I'm looking forward to seeing them. If they're going to try and make it be more fitting to a historic-looking stadium, I think that's really important. I don't think we should be encasing a historic stadium that has, through neglect, managed to retain its old-time charm in stone and stainless steel. So if they can at least make the skin of it look like it belongs in the historic building, that would be wonderful. So I look forward to seeing what they propose. Because if they do go away, having a historic-looking structure will be more valuable than having something that looks like steel and stone ate a historical structure. Because it's one from the west side, one from the east side. It's not going to look pretty. The other thing, and thank you for bringing up, Commissioner Strickland, the commitment to stay here, because it's huge investment, and that's really critical. Now I have something really picky that's on this item. Could we please stop doing handouts that are on dark black backgrounds with white font? Because that chews through toner like nobody's business. And then the toner, you have to replace cartridges. So if you have, I understand sometimes they're just printing things because it's how it's displayed in a PowerPoint. But there is a little switch on PowerPoint. You can turn that off so that the background becomes white and the printing becomes the printing. So I'm hoping we can switch to that and be more cognizant of that, not printing out things on colored backgrounds with white font. It's wasteful. We need all the money we can get. Thank you.
Modern, older people I've ever seen. You guys are sharp. She's sharp.
Are you speaking on this? Okay. And our final speaker on this item is John Nicholson.
It brings me back to money. John Nicholson, 413 North Grandview Avenue. It brings me back to money. When we were about to lose them, Jim Chisholm came up with $4 million to satisfy Major League Baseball. $4 million. Now we're hearing it's 15 to 17 million to satisfy baseball. And it's 30 million to satisfy the Tortugas. This is growing by leaps and bounds. What are we getting? And again, without commitment. So we're sitting on tripling, quadrupling the money. So it's not 4 million anymore. What has changed in 2 years or year and a half to go from 4 million to 17 million to 30 million? So we really need to discuss this. It's a great deal of money, more than the city has put in to match Hyatt Brown's Esplanade. We did a couple of dollars on Beach Street. That's all. $8 million, $5 million on Beach Street, a couple of $1 million for a seawall. All of that was less than $30 million. So all of downtown is more than matched by what we're putting into this just one building. Thank you.
All right, do we have any other questions or comments? Okay. Oh, do we have, we had a motion? Who was the motion?
Yeah, we have Commissioner Reed, and Cantu was the second.
All right. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those who are opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
And that was our last agenda item on the agenda.
All right, we have comments from the commission. I think we started with Commissioner Henry.
Yes.
No comments tonight, Mr. Mayor. Good night.
Good night. Commissioner Reed?
Yes, so I sent an email today to the manager and a couple of employees or staff in regards to grants that the Florida League of Cities offers, and I don't think we've ever capitalized on that. And they not only help with the grants, but they will help us get grants. And so that flyer that I received at the last legislative conference I went to, I made sure I got that flyer so we can partake in some of those funds. Then I want to also just remind you that the MLK banners are up because by the time we meet again, MLK Day will have transpired. So the banners are up on International Speedway with quotes from Dr. King, letting the city know that we recognize that man of honor. And just emphasizing again on that day that MCDC will be giving out books and the washing powder and the bleach as we normally do to citizens. So that concludes my comments.
Thank you. Commissioner Paris?
So this last week, I met with some residents from Woodcliff Manor and Holloway Place, and they're actually in the audience here tonight. A lot of them, as you know, were flooded out, 100+ homes. They also had sewage backup, and they walked me around. We noticed some areas, canals that it's not the city's responsibility, but another entity, so we're going to get that cleaned up. We have to find out what's happening with the Nova Canal because they said that they haven't seen anyone clean it up, and I know that it is a state-led entity, so that has to be followed up. But I think the one thing that I got from them was that if we're trying to find money, like $30 million for a ballpark, they want to be heard, and if we could help them more with the flooding. City manager did send me the letters that I did forward to them that we did send to our legislation in Washington to help us get the study done. Also, there was a report that was done in 2010, and we're still trying to find out why that study didn't happen. Because the city did do the study, and we want to know why it didn't happen. Another thing was Rick Brown did send me an email about the pump at Samuel Butts because it's all intertwined. So the pump is supposed to be back hopefully this week. And I did send your message out about all of the specifications. I'm not an engineer, so I did send it to the appropriate people, and we'll get some answers. And if we can meet with our utilities director to find out how the stormwater management is contained, that's good. Also, we contacted FDOT to try to clean up Bevel Road and also on Ridgewood to clean out the drains, which was another issue. So I actually did have a question about the vision plan from 2008, because I did have someone contact me and they said if there's an update, because it was pretty comprehensive, and we did meet with the residents, the students, business owners, people that visit. So they would just wanted to know if there's any update. Are we still working on something like that? Because then I heard you mention to this before that we were going to do something like that again. And the other thing was that I did drive by Main Street in Seabreeze during New Year's Eve. Everyone was very happy and it looked like they were enjoying themselves, but the lighting, it's an FPL thing. It's not a Daytona Beach thing, and I don't understand why. We've contacted FPL multiple times, so I don't know if we could like escalate it to see why, because if you're driving on A1A, you know exactly when you're leaving Daytona Beach and coming into Daytona Beach shores. So I know that I've notified FPL, had my neighbors notify them, so I know there's multiple requests. So I don't know how we could escalate this to get some more lighting, because I think that is important. And I think that was all that I had.
Thank you. Very well done. Commissioner Strickland?
As I touched on earlier, since we're going to have the Bike Week Master Plan workshop, we do need to talk about how we do things going forward. I think that most of the bikers that ride Harleys have hair like mine. It's gray. We're not going to be around much longer, and there's a lot more people in the biker world that are younger, have different ideas, and we don't do hardly anything to cater to those young sport bike riders. Hardly anything. I think it's time we reevaluated who we're marketing to, how we do that. And I know that we've got the HOB board and the CVB and those things, but we need to keep a closer eye on it. Like I said, Pam Wood's idea was downsize it or get rid of it. We're a tourist town, baby. We need all the people we can get here, and we need to learn how to manage it and exploit it for our businesses, make sure everybody's happy, the residents and the tourists. And I'd just like to see us really, really work on that. And going forward, just for the record, since I'm a smarty pants, a lot of people say that their commissioner is not available, doesn't answer their phone calls and stuff. My phone number is 386-307-4253. Call me 24 hours a day. But don't do no funny stuff like keeping me up. But you know what I mean. If it's serious, if there's something going on Seabreeze, call me. I'll get up and go over there. I was over there at 12:30 one night. What's his name? Steve. I can't think of his last name. He lives right there behind Wells Fargo. I went over there to hear.
Barnes.
Huh?
Steve Barnes.
Steve Barnes. Yeah, I've been over there to hear that. I hear stories that the park, Collins Park, is overrun with homeless people. I don't live far from there. I go by there 2 or 3 times a day just to look. It's been covered up with people with little kids, their dogs and stuff. I've seen one person that might have been homeless down there in the last 2 weeks. So if you see the homeless overrunning that place, that's my phone number. Call me. I will go down there and look for myself. Or if you see it, take pictures of it and send them to me. I want you to know that I am available for whatever's going on, not, oh, well, you know. So anyway, having said that, my phone will probably ring off the hook with folks that are mad at me in the middle of the night now, but bring it.
I've done the same. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I appreciate the fact that you put in the notice that the grants are still available for people who want to have the residential beautification grants, the $1,000 awarded grants. I really encourage you to take advantage of them because we are actually providing them. I also put down twice the visioning project. I'm quite intrigued by what came out of that and how far we got with regard to the group stakeholders getting together. I'd like to see what their ideas are, whether they're still valid. So do we have a copy of that at all that we could get?
It's probably on the website. The visioning plan is probably on the website.
That would be fantastic. I would
But you
love
have to understand that it's more than just what the plan was. You executed some of the things. Some of it is for the community to come forward.
Sure.
Others of it is for you as elected body to determine what you are going to do
Sure.
moving forward.
So I also recognize that we had one for the beach side that was done with that took a month, 2, 3, 4 months, where they came up with lighting and road redesign and an arts area, et cetera, for the beach side. And I had a copy, I'd like another copy of that because I'd like to see how closely we aligned with those goals. That was done a while back, do you recall? Yeah, I think a lot of residents spent a lot of time on that, and I'm kind of curious to see how much of their input we had.
Are you referring to the one that was done by the Beachside Committee that had
Yeah.
partnered with the county?
Yeah,
Oh,
I'd like to
okay.
see if we did anything like that. If we looked at their recommendations, kind of what we did with it, if we just didn't
It
do
was
anything.
for the whole beach side,
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
not just Daytona.
Sure. Mhm.
Yeah.
Also, I'd like an update, if it's possible, on Housing Authority. I'm curious to see kind of where they are right now with their families, where their families are living. Have they found homes for them, semi-permanent homes? Kind of what is their housing situation right now? I'm interested to know what's going on with them. With regard to the college students or people who want to be out later, have we ever, and I'm sure we've thought about this, you've been here for many years, an entertainment district not in residential areas, someplace a little bit more removed, where if they want to have apartments that go 24 hours a day, if they want to have whatever that goes on out there for college students, et cetera, in their own environment, away from residential established neighborhoods. Have we worked on anything like that before or thought about it at all? You've been here for a while. Have we ever?
I've never worked on it.
Okay. That's something that I think would be interesting when we go forward on our strategic planning goals. Also, I made a, all right. This past week, thank you, Commissioner Paris, for coming. We had an event, 623 Management and myself, we had an event over at the Museum of Arts and Science, and we had a documentary about Dr. King, rare footage. It's actually a 3-hour, maybe 4-hour experience when you go and watch it. We take breaks. It's a 3-hour process. Take a break and halfway through, and you go back and watch the second piece. We're doing it again the first Tuesday, and it's a free event. It starts at about 2 o'clock. So this will be happening in January, just happened this week, February, and then also March. March will be a different one in the, I think they're doing it in the planetarium that time. I'm really intrigued by us continuously speaking about our buildings and about history. So a while back, I worked with Campbell and the Halifax Museum downtown. So what's happening is the kids are coming in. I paid for them to come down to the museum, and they'll have an after-hours tour with the curator of the museum, and they'll have some volunteers there, so please come. There'll also be some snacks provided for them, and we're going to try to introduce them to the history of Daytona Beach by using the museum building that we have right now. And finally, thank you so much for the I Love Daytona Beach sign. It was a conversation that we had, and I'm so glad to see that I saw it take place. Before your time, sir, we had other conversations about covering the electrical boxes. So when I go to One Daytona, I see it. I go to the park, and I see it as I'm driving down the street. Is our intention to do anything like that? There was discussion about it before. Is there any way that we can move forward on that? Is it something that we want to talk about, something there's an interest in? We had discussed previously where it would go throughout the city, and they would have different themes in all the various zones. Anything like that?
Talking about wraps on the electric.
Exactly.
I think that is part of the committee that's being created. What's the name of the art committee we have for public arts? I think that's part of that.
And how far along are we on that?
I don't have any updated information.
Okay. Right. Thank you.
Commissioner Cantu?
No comment.
Okay. That means we're ready to go home. I've got 3 things, and be quick. The city manager in his city manager's update, which is great, it's been great, it's doing a great job with this, has talked about the city surveying residents to gather valuable feedback. 2 phases, mail-in questionnaire, and community-wide online option. The city will be asking residents for their feedback for staff and the commission to use moving forward. First phase, survey will kick off in January. 2,400 residents will be asked to fill out the questionnaire over a span of 4 weeks. This is a perfect segue into a larger community-wide visioning process. So I appreciate this. This is wonderful. I often say that I wanted a manager. I didn't want one with my name, but I wanted one that kind of had my engagement spirit. And that's my spirit. I don't know about you all, but there's nothing that I value more than knowing what our residents think. And so I really appreciate this. This is excellent, excellent work. 28 participants will participate in the Citizens Academy, which will start on next Tuesday. 28 people will come to City Hall and then visit and tour the various departments of our city and learn about how our city operates. I think that's a magnificent number, and it's awesome to Ms. Goodman and staff. 80 participants have already signed up for the Mayor's Fitness Challenge, which starts on January 10th. That's 80 already. And so I want to, certainly we expect to get well over 100. We want the facility packed out. Now, I will be challenged, as always, to be in attendance, but I will be exercising, eating, but because I am coaching, and the city manager has a team with his name on it, but that's all that those kids will get. And they will do that. I've seen them. But anyway, we're very excited. We've got over 80 participants. Mayor's Fitness Challenge and Citizens Academy both start on January 10th. That's next Tuesday. And so it's not too late. Let's continue to sign up for the Mayor's Fitness Challenge. Want to go well over 100. I'd like to see 125 people. Oh yeah, I'd like to see us get that exercise on. Mr. Manager? And, well, I will say this. We've been doing it for like 8 years. Twice one of us have won. Commissioner Reed was the first one to win, and then I followed her up with the challenge from the manager when I obliterated him. And Commissioner Henry is claiming this year that she will, she's going to win, and from the look of her refrigerator, she's going to be ready to go.
Commissioner
might
Parrish
just
just said
jump
she's
in.
winning.
You going for it?
Here.
All right, let's go. I like it.
Yeah, she's
All right.
going. It was my first year, so I didn't want to beat the mayor. I wanted to respect that.
And Mayor, I might just jump in there too.
I'd like to see all y'all get in there.
Yeah. So, just three quick items. As Commissioner Strickland has stated, January 11th, we're going to have that Bike Week Master Plan to discuss some items. We'll try to get the entire document to you all before the plan takes place, because we have ideas that have also come in from citizens and other commissioners that we'll have for discussion points. January 25th, we're going to have the ARPA funds planning discussion to hand out the additional funds that we have received. So we'll make sure those are on your calendars. That meeting is scheduled for January the 25th. And these are all Wednesday nights to make sure. As the mayor saying, to sit here and hear the mayor talk about the visioning that took place in 2010, one of the components of this survey is also to bring groups together to do roundtables with citizens about quality of life, public safety, infrastructure. So that is to see you all have done that before and try to update that document. Mayor, as you've just communicated, to help us do the strategic plan, I think it's going to be good. I hope all of the citizens in Daytona Beach will get online once that second phase and fill out the process. So we'll be sending dates out to you all soon for a strategic planning retreat for all of the elected. Commissioner Reed, did you shake your head? Oh, it's coming. Because as stated, we don't want to find ourselves as we go into the budget process in April that the commissioners have not had the opportunity to give their goals and objectives, and we're at the last minute. We want to make sure we do that ahead of time. So we'll be having that information. But January 11th, Bike Week Master Plan. January 25th, the ARPA funds planning discussion, so we can start disseminating money out and give you all your second batch of resources. So.
All right, thank you very much. Bob?
Nothing further, thank you, Mayor.
Nothing?
What, Mayor, one time, Officer Chirillo, she's probably going to be very upset with me, but I think they've already taken her bullets. She is, could you come forward, Officer Chirillo? Yes, come on up. Come on. Hey, I'm still the city manager. I'm still the city manager. One of our greatest school resource officers. Come on to the microphone. Come on to the microphone.
Come on over here.
Yeah, so she go. But the reason I'm really bringing her up is because when I first got here, I said I wanted to do what was done in the previous community called Fun on the Run, where we, for the youth that could not afford to go to summer camps, we would take the summer camps to them. I had a conversation just in passing to her and her husband, just, doing what Derek does, just talking to people. And the next thing you know, that her and her husband took over pretty much that Fun on the Run and took Fun on the Run to all of our public housing areas and to our public parks. And the children of Daytona Beach, she let them paint her car and she's still washing her vehicles. I don't know if the chief gonna get her in trouble. But so publicly, I want to say you participated in something outside of your realm of responsibility with the Parks and Rec Department to show that the police could have fun and you were trying to build a relationship with the students. So as you retire and come back part-time, which she says she's not, Fun on the Run is still available for you to volunteer in the summers to help run that program. So when is your last day?
June 3rd.
So she doesn't, yeah, but she doesn't come here often. And so I'm doing that. So we're going to work her, y'all, for a while. But I just want to let you know the Fun on Run program, because of the work she does, and she's good at other things that I'm going to use for after June.
Decorating. Well, may I say something? Don't you go anywhere. What? Willie and I, was Willie Ann, she go by Willie now, and I were raised together. This is an elementary school friend of mine, raised right around the corner, played together, went through elementary, high school, and everything. She was a police explorer. From there, she was like communications for the police department, and then decided she wanted to serve. So she has been with us for some time, dedicated to this city, and I just commend you, my friend, on being able to retire and for having served us for so long.
Look at it, don't get me now.
That's nice. Good stuff. Okay, we will now hear from the residents of the city of Daytona Beach, as well as the visitors.
Okay, our first speaker is Marjorie Johnson, and on deck is Bradford Gonzalez. So he might have left because he wanted to speak on the hookah. Okay. Then on deck is Frederick Brown.
Marjorie Johnson, Happy New Year, everybody. I would like to thank Andy Holmes and Bruce Black. They're responsible for the paving of my street, P Street, and I met with them personally. I went down and spoke with Bruce Black. I don't wait for my commissioner who's missing in action to do anything. And my street was not on the list, but it got paved. And so Bruce Black did an outstanding job. He told me about the problems that they were having over at the Campbell School. I said, well, whatever it takes, correct it. So they came over and paved my street after many years of not having it paved. And the same thing I did for Martin Luther King. I got at this podium and advocated for that, and it got paved. Same thing with Orange Avenue. I got a man elected over there, Jason Davis, who gave the city $1 million. And plus, the underground belonged to the county. The top of the street belonged to the city, and people didn't know that. So when I got Jason elected, he gave the city $1 million to help get that street paved, and that's when things happen. The squeaky wheel will get the oil. If you go and advocate for your neighborhood, if your commissioners are not doing their job, or the mayor, or whoever, then you can get up and advocate and get things done in your neighborhood. So I'm very, very proud of Andy and Bruce Black for paving my street, and it looks great. So I'd like to say tonight also that I heard tonight that Ms. Reed say some people make statements and makes a lot of sense compared to some people who don't. Well, your job here is to listen and to address the issues that your constituents bring before you. That's the same thing for you, Mary Hendrick. You have not been meeting with your constituents. You're missing in action. So you don't see me pledging allegiance to the flag because I know there is no justice for all. And you ran on one city, one vision. And the people came here from the streets over there where the houses were split out. My friend Libby Coleman lost everything. and she came here, and Paula Reed made fun of her. So when you left to go over to the police department, so this woman is devastated. She came by my house crying, so she hasn't been back. She felt that it was a waste of her time, and she didn't get any money from this city or anybody to replace that damage. So I'll say to all of you here, you're here to do the people's work. You need to be about the people's business, and you need to do your jobs properly. If you're not representing your constituents, you're wasting your time. Let's be more mannerable to your constituents and get your job done. Start meeting with them and stop this election.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is
Squeak, squeak.
Frederick Brown, and on deck is John Nicholson.
While she's coming, I do want to commend you, Commissioner Reed, for having voted to make certain that Martin Luther King was paved, and also supporting the $4.1 million that helped to get those streets paved. Because if you didn't support those things, they wouldn't happen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I thought I had done something in the 10 years that I sat here.
Yes. No talking from the audience, please. Thank you, ma'am, sir.
Happy New Year. It's Frederick Brown, 1508 Crescent Ridge. There's quite a number of things I'd like to have added to it, but I only have 3 minutes. And I had promised that I was going to talk to you about the pump situations. I want to thank Commissioner Paris for responding so quickly to my letter, and I hope it's being forwarded on. I know it contains a great deal of technical information. That's been my life, engineering. I'm very well versed at things that I think could save this city a lot of money. And of course, all this was prompted, Libby Coleman had a lot to do with that. I will say this, you know, when she looked at me and said, hey, I need help. My house is going to flood. I came over to her neighborhood and I talked to a lot of the neighbors. I assessed the situation. I walked around through all the retention ponds. I saw what was there for equipment and what wasn't there. And I said, you know, this is something the city needs to address right away. It was after that that I found the study that we paid $361,000 for. And a lot of the stuff that I identified that we need was in that study. And I sat there and wondered, well, what happened for the last 12 years? So, yeah, there's been a lot of stuff done, but, you know, there's a lot of stuff. Nobody said your job was easy. You all ran for it, and you do have a lot of work to do. There's no question about it. So let's, and Mr. Mayor, and I appreciate a lot of the stuff that you have done, but there's a lot of work to be done. Flooding has got to be somewhere in the top part of the importance in the city. Education, some of the comments that Commissioner Henry said earlier today, I really enjoyed listening at. Some of the comments I've also heard from the other commissioners have been really helpful. But it's not what we say, it's what we do. And I know, I'm sorry that their city manager's in here, but he's going to have to double his game effort up to make this one of America's greatest cities, which I believe it will be. But it does take everybody to double their efforts and redouble their efforts. You know, and I'm sorry that the Maitland team didn't make it here tonight for the recognition, but there's an example of where young men, you know, put out their strongest efforts, and look where they got. They got all the way to the state game, you know. And I was kind of looking forward to that. But that's an example of what it takes when you need to redouble your efforts and do what you can to make this a #1 city. And like I say, I'm sorry the manager isn't here right now, because I did want to challenge him on one thing in particular. You know, we do have a recognition of Dr. King coming up shortly. Dr. King's tree is right outside of his window. He can see it every day. I'm going to challenge him to make it fit. So make that a fitness challenge for the city manager. It's right outside there.
I know the tree, but I don't know what you're talking about.
It's a stone. The manager took the Lori and I out to see it the other day. We're going to do something about that.
Thank you.
I know, okay.
Because to me,
He's aware of it.
to me, that's something. There he is.
It's okay.
All right.
We got it.
So he's got a challenge.
Our next speaker is John Nicholson, and on deck is Jennifer Walbach.
John Nicholson, 413 North Grandview Avenue. Two things. The first one is the mayor mentioned Beachside opening up. A member of Volusia County asked me, did I know that they were not going to complete the school? It was supposed to be a K through 8. It's only a K through 5. And I wasn't aware of that. I had not heard that they were not going to build it. But what I found out is that they ran out of money. But although we contributed almost $200 million to other schools to build, they ran out of money. But they're going to rebuild Torrey T. Small and Marks, I think, over in DeLand.
No, Daytona Beach.
Now, Torrey T. Small is here, and also a second school. Euclid, over in DeLand. All right? If they could have the funds for that, they could have finished
John, it's
Beachside.
much more complicated than that. That's just way in
This is okay. Then explain to the people why we've waited 50 years to get a middle school back on Beachside. We had 3 elementary schools and a high school and no middle school. We finally got a middle school, and it was taken away.
School board, I don't.
Well,
there's way more than just that simple analysis that you're making. But I don't care to answer that or even discuss it.
Okay,
Because
so
it's not my
like Paula says, it doesn't exist. It is a K through 8. Is that what you're telling me?
No, it's
that I am wrong.
It's
That
an
Paula's right.
school. It is an elementary school.
It is an elementary, and we lost our middle school.
Before that, they rebuilt it as what it was.
No, they combined it with Osceola. You forgot that.
Yes, but they
It was
rebuilt it
supposed
as
to
what
be.
it was. An elementary school is what it was before.
No, it was 2 elementary schools, and they were going to rebuild it as a K through 8, Mayor.
I'm not.
All right.
I'm not arguing.
Secondly, donate. I used to donate books to Scarlet Golden Library. They decided they don't want them anymore. All right? I specifically went to the library. They have a bookstore. And when I found books about blacks or with black authors, I would buy them and donate them. And they said they didn't want them. I asked them, well, just give them away to the kids. And they said no. So I'm asking, Mayor, please.
Okay,
Okay?
go ahead. I'm just helping you.
No, you're not. I'm asking you to think about asking that our centers in Midtown accept books, put them in a pile, and let the kids take whatever they want. I just donated 3 dozen children's books to the library to sell. I could have donated them to the children's library to read. And lastly, you read a big article in the paper a week ago on Sunday about development. New Smyrna Beach wants a moratorium. Deltona wants a moratorium. We cannot afford a moratorium. They had a meeting across from Steve's Diner about condos. We are losing population on the beach side. We are losing population in downtown. We are losing population in Midtown. We are emptying out our core area. We need the development to come back in. That one apartment on Beach Street will not be sufficient. Hyatt Brown wiped out a whole community. We're barely replacing the community he wiped out for his parking lot. We need to back development. All the development on the beach side, all the development in downtown, we have, as a community, we needed this opportunity.
I interrupted him.
Yes.
Go ahead.
We need this opportunity to develop. Years ago, we stopped. There was a Sheridan going in on the beach side. The community opposed it, wouldn't allow the use of the eminent domain. We lost it. There was going to be a swimming hall of fame from Fort Lauderdale and 3 condo hotels, and we lost it for community opposition. There was a hotel going in right across the river on the beach side, on the river, and community opposition killed it. We have to stop killing development. So I'm asking all those people, come out when the manager has his meeting and decide what we want to do, where we want to build, and work for a better Daytona Beach. In
Okay, your time is way past 3 minutes.
All right, 2010.
No, you just.
We're supposed to be at 250,000 people.
Okay. Now I do want you to please use the community library, the little libraries that are at all those community centers. All you have to do is take those books and put them in those little libraries. And my children and other children will come and take them out, and we will bring books back. That's how they work. They're there at each one of those centers. Scarlett Golden has one, Dickerson Center has one, Midtown has one. You don't need to talk to anybody, just put them in there. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jennifer Walbach, and on deck is William Biddorf.
Hi. Jennifer Walbach, 101 Brook Hollow Circle, also president of Holloway Place Homeowners Association. First, I want to wish you all a very healthy and successful 2023. And I want to thank Commissioner Paris for being very proactive as a new commissioner. But our homeowners are still struggling with the repairs of their home. And the flooding is still very fresh in their minds. And they're very concerned that they still have not heard anything concrete from the city as to the steps that will be taken to resolve the maintenance of the Nova Canal, the flooding issues, and the repairs of the sewer systems. The sewer systems, when we have heavy rains, the manholes act like geysers, and there's raw sewage in the streets. I've had to call the city on a Sunday night. They send the pump trucks out, and they pump the sewer system to lower the water, and then they send out a truck the next day to bleach the streets. Unpleasant materials floating around. So we're 69 homeowners asking for your help and proactive help, and at least communicating with us as to the steps that will be taken to resolve these issues. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Our next speaker is William Biddorf, and on deck is Antoine Gandy.
Well, my name is William Biddorf. In a short amount of time, I was going to talk a little bit about the development. It's a lot more complicated. Like, as we would say, I try to do multiple developments, and I know that you all haven't blocked me from doing them at all. It just means that we need to find something through the leadership of you all to work with me to do that development. And I think that a lot of developers come here to Daytona and think, well, they don't care. They don't have any invested interest here. They're coming from other places, and they think they're just going to bowl over us because we're little old Daytona. Well, you all protect us from that. So that, I know that you particularly, and I know that you are for sure throughout the time, Mr. Strickland and Mr. Henry, are good representatives to protect the people of Daytona, and you have. Now, I'm not saying I've not always been a guy that has agreed with everything that my commissioners have done, but you know what? I can tell you that you are the representative of the people, all of us, not just me, not just the guy down the street, but all of us as Daytona. So myself is, we just need to find ways to work together. That's all. And this is the new year. And I think that we should stress on the positive, not the negative. And I feel sorry for you because people point fingers at you all for things that you haven't done, and they're not looking at all the good things that you all have done. And I've noticed that in the world is people will point out the one bad thing you did, but the 1,000 good things they don't pay attention to. So for all of y'all, you all are in my prayers, and know that I support every one of you, even though we might not agree on everything, but just know I appreciate you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Antoine Gandy, and on deck is Sandy Murphy. Mr. Gandy?
Go ahead to the next person.
Okay. Our next speaker is Sandy Murphy, and on deck is Doyle Lewis.
Oh, he's coming. Sorry, Sandy.
Sorry, Sandy.
I was just thinking that we could have got him after you.
How y'all doing again? I just had a few questions. In light of the verdict, or the vote that y'all took, I just wanted to know were we gonna be allowed some kind of grace period, like the bars and nightclubs, or was it just gonna be implemented?
It's 3 months.
Okay, is there any kind of way I can get that date? And what is the appeal process of the decision? Is it just set in stone, or is it a process?
There's no appeal to that, but there's later.
I'm just asking.
Yeah, there's later, you can, there's no appeal, but you can petition and it can change. That's all I can say. We've discussed that.
Me personally, I'm kind of disappointed. It's like I try to look at, everything from all angles. But I think personally, we could have probably all came together and said, you know what, let's sit down and come up with some kind of way that we can make this work. I feel like that could have been reached had we done that. But that's a whole nother discussion for a whole nother time. But I just wanted to get that information on the time frame and the petition. Thank you.
Thank you.
And, I'm sorry, in the ordinance, it states that this ordinance shall take effect March 6, 2023.
So just like the commission voted this time in this way, if things change and suddenly the events,
3 months.
something happens differently, people always have the right to come back, speak again, find out again, speak to commissioners again. And that was my point, is that for me, I want to get to a baseline and see what's going to happen. That's all. And then things can come back. Things may improve, they may not improve, but we'll find out.
Well, that I would say is gonna take some time. Because I'm not gonna be supportive of it until we get a baseline for how things are going. I mean, if we get a baseline and it's not changing, then you can petition to see how folks might.
I have a
It's the perfect time for you all to demonstrate, because March 6th.
Yeah. But why isn't it 3 months? That's the date they're telling you it goes into effect.
Yes.
But this is January 4th. February, March, that's only 2 months.
January to February.
Well, first reading was last month.
Yeah.
First reading was last month.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, is it 30, what was it?
Yes.
Well, the resolution says March 6th is the effective date. That's what was approved. And that was consistent with what we did with the alcoholic establishments, as far as the time frame for the effective date.
All right. It's shorter. Is it that this was done last month when it first was written?
Yeah, how do we start?
Because this is second reading. It's not 90 days.
January.
It's January 4th.
But,
First reading was what, December?
yeah, I didn't, it was based on 90 days, so it must have run from first reading.
Well,
First reading was December 21st.
If you all want to change the effective date, we could bring that up with another motion, and, we could do
I'd
that.
like to change the effective date.
okay.
I'd like,
fine.
this is February.
You want to say April?
April, 4th.
That's 90 days.
That's 90 days.
Okay. I agree with that. First motion, second, I don't have a problem.
Okay.
I have no problem. Motion and a second. Do we have any public comment on that? Listen, brother. Okay, now.
Thank you, Ann.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second, we have no public comment. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those who are opposed, same sign. Motion carries 90 days. Thank you. Mhm.
Yeah.
Ms. Murphy?
Good evening again. Sandy Murphy, 136 Park Avenue. I have a couple of things I'd like to talk to you about tonight. Deputy City Manager Driscoll mentioned that the picture of the Daytona Beach Club that you were given gives a nod to the history. I would say it's more like a tiny little twitch, maybe, but it's not a very historic-looking project, and I would really encourage you with the kind of money that's going into Jackie Robinson Field, to try to make that part of our historic district and not just some kind of bare reference to what would have been there at the time that Jackie Robinson was playing. Let's make it something real that people can get a sense of his era rather than just something modern and pasted on the outside. Second thing is, I really appreciate the number of commissioners who are focusing on literacy and getting books out to the children. That is marvelous. That's one of the best ways to increase a child's vocabulary, to increase their skills, and also to introduce them to the rest of the world. There's another facet of that, which is those children have parents, and some of those parents haven't had modeling on how you read with a child, especially the very young ones. There are programs like Raising a Reader that can come in and work with the parents one-on-one or in small groups and teach them how to use the books as a tool to get closer to their children. You know, we see so many people these days with their phone in one hand and the other with their kid. It would be, I think, very productive if we could help people learn how to use those books in the best possible way for their children. Don't let your concern over the flooding fade away. That we had a lot of community upset about that. There is an opportunity, I think, for community advocacy with our elected officials, but I really believe that leadership needs to come from the commission, and so I would like to see something coming from the dais to tell folks what they can do, how they can focus their efforts on advocacy so that we can make the biggest impact. Commissioner Strickland talked about the bike weeks and how we're really at a flex period, and I would encourage you in this workshop to step back and give up on this is the way we've always done it, as he said, and imagine what the best way to do it going forward is, because I think some changes really are asked for. And finally, if you're ever looking for a plan that the city has published and you can't find it, all the plans are on our website, C4RD with the number 4, C4RDDaytona.com. Go on there, these plans.
You're right. Thank you. Definitely did.
Before the next person comes, I'd just like to interject this. As the president of the Daytona Beach Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, we have begun a reading program at Palm Terrace. We read every Tuesday and Wednesday to young people.
Thank you. Rock steady. That's good stuff.
And may I-
32114.
And may I add that I am partnering with Black Educators Rock, which is a educational group of 170,000 Black, well, not just Black, but that's the name of the group, Black Educators Rock. 170,000 educators around the world. And we're planning a book drive where the children will be able to come to Barnes and Nobles next month. And I am partnering with Triple Fit. They will be able to come to Barnes and Nobles. They're going to be able to come inside and they're going to be able to buy books. And that is part of the funds from that stream money that was given to Black Educators Rock. So we're going to have a big book drive on a Saturday, and they're going to get to have lunch. We're going to bring the Kona machine out, ice machine out, and the children we're going to do 200 children in the elementary schools and I'm including the elementary school, which is at Living Faith Christian Academy, because they are considered what is it? Title I school as well. So we will be partnering with Title I schools to bring in, the librarians are going to be there, so they're going to help the children pick out appropriate grade level books, and they're going to get $25 to get books. So that's going to be coming up. If you'd like to come, we would love to have you volunteer. So be looking forward to more information on our book drive.
Yeah, I love it.
Thank you. Now that you said that.
I want to come.
Now, we are still looking at when they call it special session in Tallahassee, Senate Bill 4A that the governor designed. Okay, because I know Deltona had a special meeting right before Christmas on that bill as well, because all the cities are looking for money, and then the round table as well. I think all the cities are on board right now, trying to do something with the Nova Road Canal.
Yep. And we're,
I still have one final speaker for tonight. It's Mr. Doyle Lewis.
Good evening again. Doyle Lewis, Daytona Beach, United States, today.
okay.
I only have about 4 things to add to that. If I never, ever learned how to read, try to read one of these agenda items.
I know.
There's a challenge. Great New Year to everybody within my voice. I'm here to talk about the parks, the homeless, and the flooding. A lot of people are probably out of their homes and displaced still from the flooding. A lot of people probably don't understand that FEMA didn't help that much. It's a complete, I would say, debate with how you can get money from FEMA because they're bankers. That's all I can say with that. But I've been in Collins Park. I cook there. I cook in a lot of parks in a couple different counties. So when a person says there's a homeless person in the park and it's taken over the park, you need to check into that a little bit more. Maybe they just look at it the wrong way sometimes, because I'm there, and I have one particular person that walks a dog there in Collins Park that I've had to call the police on the last time I was there, because he starts it. He's usually there about 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and the police officer says, well, I don't see him. Well, the dog already did his business, okay? I'm still cooking. So that's how you catch them. I had to let you have that one. So Happy New Year. Boardwalk repairs. Please get on those. You got until turtle season on the boardwalk repairs and stuff to fix everything around there, or you're going to have too many lights working at night, all the people. You need to get some people out there to fix them. You only got a couple months. Because that's going to be a mess when turtle season comes here. How are you going to work at night? It's turtle season. You're not supposed to have lights. Reading time. That's great, because without reading time, no one can hear how a word's pronounced. The elderly people need to teach people how to read by reading to them so they can hear the announcement of words. That's a big thing, because that's in the history books. Trust me, I know my history. Pier repairs. Thank you for putting that pier repair in there. I think we should start really looking at possibly replacing the old pier because of what's going to probably end up happening with it sooner or later. Last thing, parking Beach Street. Hyatt Brown didn't knock down all those houses. That was an empty lot, that building and that parking lot went on, but he did take us some houses out of there. So he actually did a good thing. Thank you.
Yeah, yes, he did. All right.
That was my.
That's the final speaker. And this has been a good first meeting of the year. Really has. So let's keep the momentum. Good night. Great job.